Good morning, everyone. Very warm welcome to babycode 3 IELTS classes. I'm Tanu Vermani, an IDP certified trainer and a TEFL to Solve certified trainer. So, as you know, that we are coming up with our writing module and the classes for the writing module. All the sessions will be covered in this module. Let's talk about today's session. Today's session is all about GT Task 1. GT Task 1 means General Training Writing Task 1. So the writing task one for general candidates is letter writing. Now, what is letter writing? I'm going to give you detail about it. But before watching this session, those who are new to this session number 4, please go back to the before 3 sessions which are already there in the baby code application as well as on the YouTube, so that you will be on track with me for just cracking your or acing your writing module in a detailed manner. Okay, now what is letter writing? What is GT task 1? How to write a letter? Now, writing task 1 for the general candidates, which is letter writing, you will be allotted 20 minutes to complete this task. And you have to write at least 150 words. You can go beyond 150 also. There is no, I would say, negative marking for that. But see, you have only 20 minutes. So plan your answer accordingly. Okay. It comprises of 33% of your writing score. GT task 1 contains one third of the weightage, or I would say writing task 1 contains one third of the weightage, and writing task 2 contains two-thirds of the weightage. Marking criteria, that means how your writing is evaluated. Your writing is evaluated on the basis of these 4 parameters. First one is task achievement. Second is coherence and cohesion. Third is vocabulary. And fourth is grammar. Now, all of these contribute 25% each, and then you will get your total band score. Now, in task 1, you will be getting a question which contains some instruction regarding the letter, because you have letter writing, so you will be provided with some instructions. Okay, what are the types of letter? General letters, that means writing task 1, is categorized into 3 main types. There are 3 main types of letter: formal letter, semi-formal letter, and informal letter. What is formal, what is semi-formal, and what is informal? Formal letter means letters which are written to someone whom you have not seen or met. That means completely addressed to the person who is completely unknown to you, right? Semi-formal means which is written to someone whom you know, but you know them officially, right? So you know that person, but you are knowing them in a professional way. That is semi-formal, right? Informal means which is written to the person whom you know personally. That means your friends, your family. So informal is little to talk about or to write to somebody whom you know personally. Now you have to write a short letter for a specific purpose because you have been given. Now, what they basically want is it's a letter of correspondence where you demonstrate your ability to communicate. They're actually checking your ability, that are you able to communicate or write about your English letter writing skills or not. They check for all those things. You will be provided with the common everyday situations, such as you're writing a letter for apologizing your friend's party you missed out, right? Complaining about any kind of a bad services, or writing a letter to give advice to your friend who is actually going on a holiday. Or it can be about writing to express your interest in a new job. You want to apply for a new job and then you're writing a letter. So these are all common and everyday situations. There will never be a chance that you will get a situation you won't be able to write a letter about. Okay, they will always give you a common situation. In addition to being given the situation, now once in a letter you will be given this situation, you will have 3 bullet points. Now, 3 bullet points will outline what exactly or what information you need to include in your letter. For example, they may have to describe details, give reasons, express your like or dislike, make suggestion or recommendation. So always in your letter, you will be having the 3 bullet points. You will need to choose the correct tone in your letter, because tone is the way you communicate with people, and that shows the kind of relationship you have with them. Now, suppose when you're talking to your friend, your tone would be different. But when you're talking to an unknown person, then it is different. Or when you talk to your boss, your manager, or somebody else, so your tone is little different as compared to your tone from your friends or your family, right? And in letter, it is clearly indicated by proper salutation. How do you start your letter? How do you close your letter, right? It should also be conveyed by the choice of words. What kind of words you are using, what kind of phrases you are using, how kind you are, what kind of details you are including in your letter. So it shows your tone. You should always use the correct tone while writing the letter. Now, different relationships, they have different level of respect, right? Which is probably true in your language as well. So in IELTS also, when it comes to letter writing, you are either formal or informal in your tone, right? So when it comes to talking about family and friends, you are little informal, whereas rest of the people, you talk in a formal or a semi-formal way, right? So generally, if the letter is to friends and the people you know well, like your family, then reason for writing is positive. So the tone is informal. Letters to everyone else, or I would say for for complaints or negative message, then it should be formal one. Okay. So once you read your question, you can categorize that what is my type of letter. Now let's see an example for the formal letter. Formal letters, as I told you, these are the type of letter you address to someone whom you don't know. You haven't met them, you haven't seen them, right? So you live in a room in a college that you share with another student. However, there are many problems with this arrangement and you find it difficult to work. So you are about to write a letter to accommodation officer at the college. In the letter, what you need to describe. Now there are 3 bullet points. First is describe the situation. Second is explain your problem and why it is difficult to work. Third is say what kind of accommodation would you prefer. So you have to describe these 3 bullet points in your letter. These are the most important points which you need to elaborate or extend on. Begin your letter as follows. Now, for formal letter, we always start the letter with salutation, dear sir or madam. Now, a key indicator of formal letter is when you are given the salutation, dear sir or madam. It shows that you do not know the person you are writing. Exactly, because that is why you are writing sir or madam, because you don't know who that person is, right? So you have to start with dear sir or madam. You begin with this, but how do you end? You end your letter with yours faithfully. You can write yours sincerely also, but generally we keep it for semi-formal letter. Okay, so yours faithfully and yours sincerely, both you can write at the end of your letter. Now, what is semi-formal letter? Semi-formal letter are those type of letter which you address to someone and you know them formally. Officially you know them. Professionally you know them. Right? Now, suppose you can write, Dear Mr. Rat. Now I'm working for babycode. I'm a trainer here at babycode. So if I have to write a letter to my CEO, Mr. Pavan Kumar, so how I'll be writing a letter? Dear Mr. Kumar, right? Or my name is Tanu Virmani, Dear Miss Virmani. So you can write with the last name, right? And you end your letter with yours sincerely or either yours faithfully. See the example, you recently started commuting to work by bicycle and discovered that there is a problem with the bicycle parking near the building where you work. Write a letter to the building manager and say. Now, again, there are 3 bullet points. First is explain the reason for using a bicycle to commute. What problems have you encountered with the parking? What are your recommendations to solve it? So you have to specifically talk about all these 3 points in your letter writing. Now get to the point or purpose of your letter right away. Include necessary and relevant information. Very first thing is purpose. You need to write the relevant information in your purpose. Then you make sure you cover the 3 bullet points in the question very correctly. Talk about your problems, give more than one if you have, stick to your facts. Okay. Now for formal and semi-formal, you have to use polite and formal language. And do not use contractions or short forms or abbreviations. For example, see the statements for the formal language. I'm writing to thank you. I apologize for missing the birthday celebration. I would like some more information about. Would it be possible for us to meet? So these are the formal language, the formal statements. When I have completed, or I would say when I have commenced this live session number 2 of writing module, live session 2 is all about vocabulary for task 1, whether it's academic or the general one. So in the general vocabulary, you can see that I have given you lots of statements for formal letters and for the informal letters. So you can read all these. When it comes to requesting, when it comes to apologizing, you can use all those statements. So go back to live session number 2 of writing module and see all that again. Informal letters. Informal letters are those letters which are addressed to the person whom you know personally. So your friends, your family comes here. You can begin your letter with directly the name Dear Tanu, Dear John, Dear Sneha, whatever the name is. And then you end your letter with warm regards, best wishes, or best regards, right? Now see here, a friend has agreed to look after your house and pet while you are on a holiday. Write a letter to your friend. In the letter, give contact details for when you are away. Give instruction about how to care for your pet and describe other household duties. So you are writing a letter and 3 bullet points are here. Give contact details for when you are away. Give instruction about how to care for your pet and describe other household duties. Now begin your letter as Dear Dash. Now you can see that you choose your salutation, right? This does not automatically mean it is an informal. You should look to see who you are writing and why. You have to read your question first. Now suppose this is a letter to a friend and the situation is positive one, not a complaint or apology. So it is an informal tone. Once you read your question, then you have to decide that whether it comes under the formal category or the informal category. Now, what is the structure of task 1? Structure of task 1 is that you have to greet first, salutation, purpose of the letter, para 1, para 2, and then comes your sign off. Now, you should use the right language for each type of letter. I'll show you how the language varies according to the type of letter. Now, suppose when you're writing a formal letter, your formal language, I require your assistance to purchase a diamond jewelry for my wife. But when it comes to semi-formal, I need your help in buying a diamond jewelry for my wife. And when it comes to informal, how about hopping along with me to the jewelry shop and helping me to select a piece of diamond jewelry for my wife? So how it varies, formal language, semi-formal and informal, right? So you can use your variation of vocabulary and the sentence structures to show that yes, you are using the formal language or the informal language. Contractions. You can use contractions like I'll come in informal types of letter. It should be avoided in formal letters, where you must use I will come, not I'll come. Okay, so contractions are only acceptable in formal letters. How to write your letter, how you'll be planning your letter. First of all is that you have to identify the type of letter, whether it is formal, semi-formal or informal. Next is you have to read the instructions carefully so that you address all the parts of the question, all the bullet points, the purpose of the letter and the sign off. Decide how to greet, whether you have to write sir or madam, whether you are writing the last name of the person or the first name. Once that is done, you have to decide on the language to be used based on the type of a letter. If it's a formal letter, your language should be formal. If it's an informal letter, your language should be informal. Decide the sign off for the letter and decide on what content to write for each of the body paragraphs. So you will decide for paragraphs also what contents you will write. Next, some of the important points. Now, some important points which you need to focus when you're writing a letter is that what examiner looks at. If you look at the closer look at task achievement, which is the very first parameter, first criteria, marking criteria, examiner will look for these four features. Whenever you write, first is the purpose of the letter is presented. How do you present? How do you present the purpose of your letter? The purpose of the letter should be presented very clearly. Next is tone of the letter is appropriate. You should write the tone. That means how you're writing the tone of the letter, it has to be appropriate. Third is bullet points are presented, highlighted, and expanded also. You should always present all the points, bullet points in your letter. Format should be appropriate. That is, whatever the format of the letter is, you have to follow that. You cannot write any addresses, I would say respected sir, something like that. No, nothing is allowed. Okay, so let's look at all these four features in a detailed manner. Very first is purpose of the letter. That means you have to state the purpose. Once you start writing your letter, you have to clearly state why you are writing. Purpose means nothing but the reason for writing the letter. Why are you writing? You have to mention that reason. Reason for writing the letter has to be clearly presented in the first paragraph itself. Make sure that the purpose of letter is in direct response to the situation. For example, see, when it comes to formal letter, you start with, Dear Sir or Madam, I'm writing to express a dissatisfaction with the product I have purchased recently and to request a full refund. So that means the reason for writing a letter is that the product he purchased, he's actually dissatisfied and now he's requesting for a refund. When it comes to informal, dear John, I was so pleased to hear that you're planning on visiting my country. So I'm writing to give you some travel tips and advice before you book your trip. So now you're writing an informal letter to your friend. Now, task one situations when it comes to formal and informal also. Formal letter, letter complaints, like letter of complaint, personal complaint, business, recent experience, product related complaints. Letter of request, whether it's a refund, repair, advice. Letter of inquiry, information request, booking inquiry. Letter of recommendation, letter of suggestion. Informal contains letter of invitation for party, dinner, celebration, letter of request asking for help, asking for advice, letter of thanks or appreciation, again you are thanking your friend or family member, letter of suggestions again. Now using the right tone. First one was state the purpose clearly. Second is writing or using the correct tone. So let's move on to this feature that your tone of letter has to be correct because tone refers to the way in which you write the letter, whether it's a formal style or informal style, right? So instructions in the question will give you a clue. Begin your letter as follow. Dear means that maybe you're writing informal or semi-formal. It can be to a friend, colleague, or someone you know. But when they say dear sir or madam, that means you're writing a formal letter written to someone you do not know, right? A formal letter contains longer sentences that use passive languages and models also. For example, the broken light needs to be fixed to ensure that customers who use this facility have adequate visibility of their surroundings. But when it comes to informal, it is quite a conversational one, can include contractions, can't, and more directed speech. Can you fix the light in the kitchen so I don't have an accident? So that is the direct speech here, right? Now see the vocabulary for formal and informal structure. Formal says request, whereas informal says ask. Formal says purchase, informal says buy. Could, can, would, will, earliest convenience when you're free, yours sincerely, best wishes, respond, write back, furthermore, and as you described above, as I mentioned it. So you can see the difference of formal vocabulary and the informal vocabulary. Next is finally remember the greeting and closing situation of an general module. That means writing task one letter needs to match the style. For example, when you're starting dear sir or madam, it has to end with yours faithfully. When you're writing dear John, then it has to end with best wishes, warm regards. So include bullet points presented in the question. First is when writing a letter as a part of your task, it is important that you write bullet points, right? A situation, who to write the letter, and what you must include in the letter. So all the three bullet points need to be presented. Remember that some bullet points contain more than one element. So make sure to watch for and then you write about it. Okay. Now let's break down the question. Let's see with an example. An overseas friend wants to visit your country on holiday. Write a letter to your friend. In your letter, recommend the best time of year to visit and why. Describe the types of accommodation your friend could choose. Say what would you like to show your friend in your country. Write at least 150 words. You do not need to write any addresses. Begin your letter as follow. Dear. Okay, so you have to write your letter with dear. Look at the first bullet point and you will see it contains two elements. So make sure you present both. First one is the best time of the year to visit, and the second is why is it the best time to visit. Now see the second bullet point and you will see that you have to describe types of accommodation. So there are plural things, two accommodation at least. First type of accommodation, second type of accommodation. So once you describe your first bullet point, you have to cover two elements here, when and why. Most people visit Brisbane in the summer month, but I think it's far too hot there. The best time to visit is between April and June, our autumn season. It's still sunny but much cooler and not as humid as the summer. Now, structure of your letter. The final feature to look at is the format of your letter. A letter needs to be written using a proper format. Greeting, the main body, the closing, right? Do not write any addresses, so do not include them, but the structure has to be very clear and appropriate. Now see the example of that informal letter that we talked about. First is salutation, dear Andrew. Now, purpose of the letter. I was pleased to hear that you are going to visit Brisbane, so I'm writing to give you some information to think about before you go. Right, so he's actually giving some suggestions, some advice. First bullet point was when and why. Most people travel to Brisbane in summer months, but I think it's uncomfortably hot at that time of the year. Autumn is the best season between April and June. It's still sunny, much cooler than in the summer. Second bullet point you have to describe in second paragraph. At the moment, because there were two accommodation types of accommodation, at the moment all our bedrooms are full, so unfortunately we can't put you up. However, there are some cheap places to stay like Airbnbs in our suburb. You could also stay in a serviced apartment in the city center or on the Gold Coast. There are lots of specials online, so I'm sure you will find somewhere affordable. Third bullet points in separate paragraph. When you get here, let me be your tourist guide. I'll take you to a lawn point koala sanctuary where you can feed kangaroos and koalas. I can also drive you to the Gold Coast for a swim. To add excitement, we can visit the theme park there too. Once you complete your three bullet points and you describe and extend them, write a concluding statement. Looking forward to see you, looking forward to catch you up soon, right? Then salutation, best wishes, and then your name, right? So you have to write this proper format which comprises of the purpose of the letter and three bullet points, concluding statement, beginning and closing. I hope I'm clear with the today's session that if you want to score higher band score in GT task 1, you need to include these features: that clear purpose, your tone should be correct, present and highlight your bullet points, and an appropriate format. So please practice from the babycode application. There are already lots of sample answers for the letter writing. Please practice for the GT task 1. Check out our live session on the YouTube and on the babycode application. Please provide your feedback and your comments. You can do the star rating. Drop your comments if you have any queries, you like the session, so that I know that you are practicing also. Going through the sessions, dropping a comment will give me a motivation, and I'll be aware that yes, you guys are practicing. And I'm going to help you so that you can enhance your English skills, right? So stay tuned for next session. I'm going to cover up something new then. Bye bye. Take care, all of you. See you in the next session.